Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's online seminar. I'm Kate Law, and I'm the Membership and Learning Director here at the CCMA. And today we are talking about how do you compare to the CCMA Benchmark. We're super excited to launch this year's CCMA Benchmarking with the support of 8x8. Chris from Angus, who is the VP of Contact Centre Engagement, who's the ideal member of the 8x8 team to contribute to this seminar today. So I'm really delighted that he's going to join me on screen shortly to help to bring this to life. We can talk about this all day, but we have selected a number of the metrics that are measured as part of this activity to really help to discuss and bring to life. There will be some audience participation. So as always, we want to get your involvement as part of today's session. We'll raise some polls throughout the session, have some talking around that. We'll share some insights and actually bring that to life with the rest of our panel. But the CCMA benchmark continues to grow year on year from UK contact centres from various industries of all shapes and sizes. We cover 25 plus key customer, people and operational metrics. And it's a really straightforward process, but actually it gives us a wealth of information and so much insight. So first of all, let's make a start into today's session. I'd like to invite Chris, David and Eliza Vita to join me on screen. David is the Customer Interaction Manager from Worcester Bosch. Eliza Vita is the Customer Quality Assurance Lead from BPHA. And as I mentioned before, we have Chris, who's the Vice President of Contact Centre Engagement for 8x8. Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Morning, Kate. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning to everyone.
Good morning. Thank you. So reviewing the comparison of this year's data to previous years has been really interesting to see. Those of you that know me know I'm a little bit of geek when it comes to a little bit of contact centre metrics and performance. So seeing how that has evolved year on year really does help to tell a story. And for us, seeing the involvement and then helping to bring that to life with some of the initiatives, the best practice that we see from across the community is so insightful. And it's great to see and hear from our members that they are using the benchmarking report to support them along that journey. So we hear the great ideas, we hear that actually members are discussing that and seeing actually how do they compare, and they're posting that into our different forums. And we can see the measure of the impacts, which is wonderful. So it shows that actually that it really does hold a great purpose. So based on this, we want to provide a sneak peek of some of the results. And as I mentioned before, we encourage interaction. So please use the questions and answers function within the functionality of today's seminar. If we don't get to all of your questions, absolutely fine. We will come back to you. So please rest assured. However, if there's something particular that you want to pose out to one or all of our panel, please feel free to do so. During the seminar, as I mentioned before, we will ask a few poll questions for you to answer, which will then follow with the discussion around these results. So let's get stuck in. First of all, Sleaze, please can you launch poll 1 for me? So on average, what is the total number of interactions, these quality interactions, including calls, emails, web chats, etc., that are monitored or scored in your quality monitoring process per advisor per month? And that can be by your team leaders, by a coach, by a system. So if you can, the audience can please select the one that's most relevant. Oh, and I've already seen a question coming around and just see how many organisations use AI for this. Fantastic. How are we looking for results, Sleaze? Are we nearly there? Wonderful. Okay. So it's really interesting. Between 1 and 6 interactions are scored per advisor per month, which doesn't seem to have really changed in comparison to what I saw years ago. But David, how does that compare to what you do at Worcester Bosch?
Yeah, so from our side, it's very similar. So it will sit between the 1 to 6 bracket. What we did actually as an input from last year on Benchmark is reorganizing the activity from a team leader to a quality specialist. And the idea will be to increase the consistency and then over time to increase the number of interactions we can take from there. So it's a work in progress. Definitely there is the aim and vision to go above the 1 to 6, because the more we can do, the better it is. And we're on the journey to that.
Okay. So what did you do before? How many did you do the year prior?
We did about three, and there were team leaders. And what we felt like is, it's another activity in between many other things that team leaders have to do. So as well as the consistency was not necessarily there.
Yeah.
So by pulling into a dedicated resource, we can increase on that aspect and make it someone's, let's say, bigger part of the role rather than an additional task on top of others.
Yeah. And we hear that quite a lot, David, to be honest with you, is that the role of the team leaders evolved so much, increasing the quality it's just not, it's not realistic for them to be able to do, and that inconsistency as well. So yeah, we hear that. Elizaveta, how does that compare to your results?
Yeah, I think we are fitting into the majority. So basically, we're now monitoring only calls at the moment, and we're planning to start monitoring emails and web chats and WhatsApps this year. We have basically the limit is three calls per person per month, and that's because it's only one person, myself, who is doing all the evaluations. So basically, it's a lot of work, I can say. Okay, we're planning ideally to start monitoring as well 3 emails per person and 3 web chats or WhatsApps per person. So it would be around nine interactions per month.
Wow.
We're going to establish the process, like to hand over part of evaluations to the team leaders. For this purpose, also, we're doing currently whole collaborations, so just to manage to evaluate consistently. And the same will be done for the emails. So everything is in process. So basically, we're settled with calls. Now we're going to do this month, next month, the emails, then web chats. Also, I can just say from the point of AI, it's not that the current development of AI does not allow it to use it for evaluations, because AI cannot identify if the request was fulfilled, if the correct advice was given. So it's just not there yet. Maybe like in 10 years, it will be there. So at the moment, it's only humans can do it.
Okay.
So that's why we're kind of limited with the number of evaluations.
Yeah. I hear that.
Yeah, and just
you are looking at AI, which is interesting.
Yeah, so we do it, it's very useful to identify if there was a good call. There will be a lot of plus marks AI identifies, but the evaluation itself and the contents of the conversation should be done by the human. Also from just as our practice, since we do only 3 calls per person per month, I'm making sure to take calls from different days, because, for example, on one day, advisor may not feel very well, and it will not be fair to evaluate the calls from the same day. So it's like kind of try to randomize as much as possible to give a bit fairer representation.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And there's a question that's come in before I want to pick Chris's brains on this as well. Do you focus on call monitoring or interaction monitoring rather than case evaluation, which incorporates all communication in a case along with data and case management? So do you look at the end-to-end journey that customer's been through as part of that journey? What's that like for yourself, Elizaveta, or is it individual interactions?
It's basically the interaction evaluation includes what was done after the call. So was it properly documented on the system? Were the appropriate departments notified? If, for example, we promised to send email or information, was the email sent? So it's all part of full evaluation. So basically it evaluates from start to finish.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Thank you. So that is a lot of work that's involved in that. to do that
It's
manually.
a huge amount of work to do semi-manually for one person as well, Eliza Vita. So all credit to you. I think what we see from the usage of our tools and systems, I think there definitely is an increase in requirements to score and to monitor more interactions, whether it's call or media flows. And I think that comes from a couple of areas. So what we see is obviously the frontline advisors are the most overwhelmed with interactions in most cases, and it does become one of the IT leaders and the procurement teams heaviest investment in the next 3 or 4 years is to try and increase, reduce the workload. So, and also there's the simplicity now of being able to score the calls and score the interactions with tools. Interesting your take on the AI piece, Eliza Vita. So I'll kind of give maybe a counterpoint on that just as I wrap up. But the usability of the tools, the fact that frontline teams are working remotely in most cases, not all contact center workers are back in a single room, means it's even more important to assess more interactions, because you're not just picking up calls on the fly or on the year. The team leaders are doing those physical floor walks that would have done historically. So adding those tools in is super important. And I think some of the tools from the 8x8 side of things, and I promise you this is not a sales pitch from me, guys, so anyone listening in, you can call me after if you want, but you don't have to. It's the tools available there make it easier to score more. So there are tools there that can allow you to look at sentiment analysis, do like real-time transcriptions of calls. You can use some of the AI engines to data dip into accuracy of answers. And you can take a snapshot to speed up that transaction time from the QA team. So by creating auto summarizations for the QA team means less time doing the searching, the lookups and keywords. So there are definitely things people can introduce into the contact center. And even just from a UC perspective, we have a tool called Conversational IQ, which effectively does the same speech analytics and quality assurance metrics, but from a UC user rather than just a contact center user. So I think the demand is higher, the ease of tools is increased, which means we're only going to see more and more interactions assessed, I think.
So based on that and using technology, are you surprised at how low a percentage we saw of marking 100%?
I'm not, because again, to Eliza Vita's point, it's not all 100%. So they do need human interactions in place, and there's an adoption of tools. So we have lots and lots of users at our end that are paying for some of the quality management softwares within their applications, but haven't fully adopted that. And I think David said the same thing earlier about you're on a journey. It's a journey, and it's going to be programmatic. So I think you will move towards that. But I don't think you probably ever get to a full 100% unless it's fully taken over by automation and you can fully trust software to do that. Because one of the most expensive resources every business has is its people, and you simply couldn't scale the number of people required to have to assess every interaction. It just wouldn't be scalable.
But actually, interesting to what you've all said is we're on that journey, because if I look at the benchmarking results, so the average number reported within the CCMA benchmark this year of interactions monitored per advisor per month was 13. So that is up from actually 5.8 in the year prior. So we can see that. So David mentioned before about that increase. We are physically seeing that also come through within the CCMA benchmark. And also what everyone else is saying within this panel. So it's really interesting to see that actually we are on a journey. So it makes me really eager now to see how's that evolve again next year, because that's just going to go up and up, right?
It wouldn't surprise me if it doubles again next year.
Yeah.
Because like Eliza Vita wants to start assessing more media channels, and the adoption of AI and the development of AI is going to make it's a hell of a lot easier to bring those channels into the assessment pool. So it wouldn't surprise me again if it's north of 20 next year.
And do you see then, Chris, is the voice channel being monitored? Is that still the number one, or are you seeing customers now evolve to actually looking at more social channels as part of their quality interactions and using technology?
I think the voice is still the number one. It's actually becoming. I still feel voice is king because I'm a little bit old school, but it isn't necessarily being the most primary route of interaction for the customer. So I think there does need to be a shift, because you have to meet your customers where they want to be. So that might be through WhatsApp, SMS channels, chat interactions, that kind of thing, emails. But voices, I think, at the moment is the simplest way to assess, because you can read tone and you can read sentiment within the assessment too, and an agent interaction, which is what you're doing is you're looking at, how did my agent, the representation of my business, how did they service this customer? Yeah. Not just did they get the right answer, but did they handle it in a way which we'd like them to, in terms of how they conducted themselves. And that's difficult sometimes to do through some of the other media. So I think we are still seeing voice as being the main thing managed, but it does need to shift, because I think the direction of travel from preferred contact routes is moving away from voice. So that will need to shift. Yeah,
no, interesting. Thank you for that. And next I wanted to go on to more around the landscape of languages. So we get asked a lot about what are the landscape of languages that are supported from UK contact centres, and what do those multilingual customer hubs, what can we service? So I want to share some detail around what we're seeing. Last year, we saw an average of 10 languages supported from UK multilingual hubs. Now we see, I'll share if my technology works for me, as it did in the test. So we will see on here more organisations. So English obviously is number one being serviced out of the UK, as we envisage. Actually, but we are seeing that there's more languages being serviced, but actually we are seeing that more organisations are using technology as an interpretation or translation service. So that is also evolving, which is really interesting. So the typical, do we outsource? Do we get those skills internally? Can we recruit those skill sets where we are based within our contact centres? The conversations are changing, and the mindset and how organisations are building their plans, or when they're looking to grow out and service further languages, that's now evolving further. And that's just one thing I just really wanted to share for the audience also, because that was really interesting for us, as that is also continued to evolve from across the industry and across our benchmark. But let's get back into some of the metrics that we saw also. So please, can you launch poll 2 for me, please, Delise? Now, this is one that we are asked an awful lot. So as a percentage, how much sickness absence, both long-term and short-term, did your contact centre have in the measurement period as an average? Less than 5%, 6 and 10, or 11 plus. Interesting. Right, okay. So we've got some still doing really well. So that's brilliant to see, but actually we've still got a lot right in that middle. 46% saying between 6 and 10% absence, and some are still experiencing those higher than 10% on average. So Elizaveta, how does this compare to what you see within your organisation?
Okay, basically for us it's interesting, because as I see in the report, the CCMA benchmark is 6% and our absence is 6% exactly. So
so you're right.
So we're just all right on this one. Yes, what I can see, maybe what helps, so we have a hybrid working. So at the moment, advisors can need to come to the office 1 day per week. So yeah. It makes it easier. It helps, yes, as well. We have a lot of mental support programs in place in the company. We have mental support via HR, like counseling sessions can be arranged. Also, we have the mental support, mental health first aiders. It's our own staff trained on mental health support. So if there are any issues, our advisors can come to them. Basically, also our managers are like very understanding, I can say, so always ready to support. It also tied with the number of another metric, like number of advisors per manager, so our managers have time to really help. So I guess that's the main reasons why we're on the benchmark at the moment.
Wonderful. Well, and how does that compare to previous years? Has it always been around 6%, or has that gone up or down?
I cannot tell you. I'm sorry, I really didn't check about the previous years.
So because hybrid working has obviously changed. So some organisations have seen post-pandemic the absence has gone down because people are working at home. But actually, if they are genuinely ill, should they be working? Or actually, is it that there's underlying issues, which we can delve a little bit deeper in a moment? But it's all of these considerations when it comes to absence, isn't it, that we have to be mindful from. David, how do you see that at Worcester Bosch?
Yes, our side we saw 7% for the whole of 2023, which was an improvement compared to the year before, and very much like Elizabeth, we put a lot of effort in terms of mental health and well-being for the team, whether it's activities in the team, whether it's also piece of information, the newsletter, signposting, and really trying to make a lot of effort from there. What it's interesting, at least in my organization, is the fact that we saw an even further decrease in short-term absence. So that was above the reduction overall, but actually we saw an increase in long-term. Right. Which obviously, it's a topic for research now to understand what else we can do, because obviously we can see that with the hybrid working, with the activities that we're doing, we recently also changed our opening hours to make them a little bit more friendly, if you want, from also an advisor perspective. All of these activities have helped the short-term side. Now, question for us is also what else can we do to improve and to support the team, knowing that, and again, that's part of what you covered during CCMA research and so on. The job itself is getting more difficult, more stressful. So what else can we do on top of what we can do to further improve in that direction?
Yeah, 100%. And it is great to see that there's so many different initiatives to support people, whether it is in that hybrid environment or that home environment. And you've both mentioned talking about hybrid. Just if you don't mind sharing, what does hybrid look like and mean for your organizations?
Yes, for organization, and I would say specific for the contact center within the organization, we try to be very flexible in terms of we don't have set days to say someone needs to be in the office. We try to make the office a welcoming place for the ones that want to come in. As well as we try to come up with the purpose, if you like, for the staff to come in. So what we do once a quarter, for example, we run what we call events week. So we have a week of basically a full day of workshop activities, team building. So where the advisors will come in one day of that week, and then not work, if you like, but being fully present on site, whether there is product training and so on. So we try to make the most of, if you like, the facility and the being together for a purpose rather than, okay, just come in the office.
Which is really interesting. We are hearing more of that if contact centres bringing their people in when they have a hybrid working model, those meaningful interactions, those real engagement days, so the advisors know that they are coming in for a purpose, which is something personal to them, that they're going to get something out and they're not just going to be handling their interactions necessarily in the contact centre on that day.
Absolutely. And we have a certain part of the team who will want to come in every day, and that's perfectly fine. At the end of the day, that's why we said we leave it down to the individual to choose what's the best setup for them. We try to come up with events and activities. We had last month with a bake-off activity with the team, also to try and have a bit of fun, but really try to make it worthwhile for someone who may be traveling 30, 40, 50 minutes even to come to actually say, okay, I've actually had a personal enjoyment gain from going in the office that day rather than working from home.
Yeah, no, I get that and I hear that. And you miss those social interactions, don't you, when you're at home? You miss the buzz of working in the contact centre. So absolutely agree with you. That's really nice to hear. Elizabeth, how does that differ for you guys with your hybrid working?
Yes, okay, so it's partially the same, partially a bit different. So of course, anyone is welcome to the office any day. So we don't have any limit. For example, if someone wants to work every day from the office, they can come absolutely, and they are welcomed. But what we are doing, actually, we're doing the team days. So we want the advisors to be in the office together with their manager who manages them. So basically, on one day we have one team, so set of 11 advisors and their managers, so they can like communicate face to face, like raise questions, do meetings face to face rather than online. On another day we have another team day for another team.
Okay.
And okay, that's not set in stone. For example, if someone cannot come on their team day, we're always flexible, we can change it. Also on some days we have team meetings, so in office, and the purpose is so to counter the fact that some people, they may not see each other often if they're on different teams. So at least once a month we gather the whole team together, so like kind of they communicate, they know each other like better.
Yeah.
Yes, also like we encourage shadowing. So for example, one advisor can shadow another advisor in the office just to share expertise. It's a balance like between, so we're kind of flexible. So there are a few rules, but they're flexible.
Guidelines, if you will.
Some guidelines, yes.
Guidelines
exactly.
to they work to, but actually make sure that they are they're having that moment, that opportunity to interact with each other.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It's very important.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but we hear quite a lot that those that were recruited in the pandemic to work at home then feel disengaged against the brand. They're not feeling that connection with the brands that they are working for because they've never seen it. They've never worked with those people. And then that comes with anxiety going into the contact center environment to work with all these people. I don't know these people because I see them through a little screen. And so it's getting that connection with them can be quite difficult, isn't it?
I think it's also in terms of the ramp time frames too. So I know from in my experience in managing teams 8x8, so not necessarily contact centers, but managing groups of people, that over that pandemic era, it actually opened up a whole new demographic that we wouldn't have been able to employ before, because we would employ people that could be remote and they didn't have to be near a physical office. So actually, I think it's Sophie's point in the chat room here, having purposeful reasons to come into the office is super important. And so that otherwise they're coming in and just doing meetings or doing the day job because they have to travel further afield. Really, really important. And I think like you look at that and you think if you look at the number two reason why people decide to move away from their roles typically comes down to not having the right tools to do the job in the which they want to do. And that doesn't necessarily mean technology. It means skills, training, that kind of thing. And like you said, like being able to be in the office, those water cooler moments where you can grab 2 minutes of somebody you haven't seen in a while to catch up, or if you're adopting into a new organization and you can pick up what someone's saying next to you, those moments are really critical to getting somebody up to speed quickly. And then that in turn, that kind of halo effect of that increases the chance that person is not going to sort of churn out of your organization because they're feeling overwhelmed. It reduces the risk of them going taking sick days because they are more invested, they do care more, and but that all comes from having that kind of that connection of that the right blend of being at home, but where you can be sort of comfortable, like I am today, and then being in the office where you can learn and interact and build rapport and kind of buy into the journey and the vision of the business. It's interesting that kind of, David, I was kind of quite nodding along with everything you were saying there, because they're like those things in terms of the mental health and the flexibility, changing work hours. They're things that we're seeing across the board of all of the customers that I'm speaking to. Everyone that's doing it right is exactly what you just explained. I contributed to an article last week on this topic, and reading back through some of the other contributions, like you were kind of ticking those boxes. So yeah, it was really pleased. It was nice to hear, because I can see that everyone else I speak to too. So it seems like you got it nailed.
Glad that we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, it was like, hang on a minute, I read that earlier on. Did you
You can see that from your results though, David. And funny enough, so the benchmark results actually show a very similar story. So we saw on the CCMA benchmark this year, the average advisor absence for sickness was 6%, which was down from 7.1 for last year. So pretty much as a mirror image of what you're achieving there, David. And it's great to see that actually, Chris, from what you're seeing, Elizaveta and David, of what organisations are doing, because it's wider than just the contact centre, because organisations are adapting their mindset to how do we recruit, how do we attract the right people, and actually, is it the right person the person that we recruit now, is it the same kind of person that we recruited in the past? So we, can they be self-sufficient working at home in that hybrid environment? Well, now we've got more technology deployed. Are they handling more complex interactions back to back? So that skill set, have we evolved what the type of person that we actually that we recruit and need to service our customers on that front line? So that all these things and how we're adapting and thinking about the bigger picture is great to see. And I think that is evident that there's so many initiatives taking place, which is driving down that absence, which sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge when you're managing a contact centre and able to service your customers at the same time. But I do want to share with you as well, as part of, we had, one moment. So in our research last year, and our colleague Wellbeing Research, we had 53% of those that took part that gave reasons that they feel short absence triggers. So 25% said they often feel emotionally drained at the end of the work day. 23% said that they sometimes have difficulty sleeping due to work-related stress. 18% said that they have had problems with physical health due to work. 16% have had problems with mental health due to work. And 14%, I often feel lonely at work. So this was research last year. 47% there was none of the above. So it was another reason, which could be a wealth of things. But that really does show that this was research last year. If we were achieving an average of 7% last year, but actually you can see from the initiatives that there's lots of great activity taking place, which will pretty much touch all of these areas. So hopefully we'll start to see that actually there's less people being impacted by this, that could then ultimately impact that absence figure and that performance.
I think if you look at that top one about the emotional draining, I think that really screams out for the use of technology to remove some of these, like the repetitive tasks which drive down the kind of stress levels for the contact center workers. So I think one of the main use cases for introducing, like, the bot systems, whether that's an IVR, your voice bot, or one into your digital work stream through a chat bot, for example, it can take away sort of huge quantities of interactions. Some of our research showed, I think it's like 99% of agents are welcoming the introduction of AI to alleviate their stresses. I think most people were thinking, oh, people are going to be scared for their jobs, and we're going to be out of a job. But almost next to nobody that we interact with around our AI services and our bot services, it's never about reducing staff overheads. It's all about being able to service more customers, and then having their agents be able to work on things which are more interesting. And that then in turn drives down sickness, absence, because they're more invested, it's more involved, it's not repetitive inquiries. And I think that will then contribute to downturn in that percentage, that 25%. I think that will also that will work in that favor also.
I think you're right. I think that the more it's the role of the working within the contact center. It used to be seen as the processing, very transactional. Yes, you might have customers which may be upset, or there's a challenge within that. But actually, it's after a period of time of doing that, you can sometimes get a little bit bored. By upskilling those advisors and giving those transactional activities to more technology, so they're dealing with the really juicy interactions, means that they're gaining new skills as they're evolving. So they're developing naturally within your organization. So probably less likely to get bored sooner.
Well, I think our customers, and what I'm seeing in kind of a lot of these things I do, is that the voice of the employee is becoming equally as important as the voice of the customer. The investment in technologies for the employee, it's not, the old days at contact center was a cost center, right? Now it's not. It's definitely part of the revenue generating machine. Obviously, it's 5 times more expensive to generate a new customer than it is to retain a customer. And you employ that kind of that similar mindset to your employees also. And then they will go back around to happy employee, happy customer. So it pays dividends.
Yeah, that's funny.
Just wanted to add, like, it's very, very saying that if you see from the whole list of the reasons, there's only one trigger related to physical health. So Basically, all of others are mental health and stress related. So it just like shows the huge importance of support needed for the employees, and additional efforts from the management as well.
100%.
And reducing the number of interactions via automation, as Chris said, like also it can help like really a lot just to relieve stress from people, because they maybe have more time to handle complex requests than spend time on doing very simple things.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting when you see 14% often feel lonely at work, but we can see now that there's so many more organisations which are doing so much more around employee engagement. So hopefully we should see that will shift in the positive mindset that we are seeing the benchmarking for the absence results. So I thought that was a really good, interesting to share that as part of this session whilst we were talking and getting into absence. But benchmark, so it did show an average of 6 against the 7.1. So we are making great movement. It is heading in the right direction for the right reasons. But I suppose the one thing that we just want to be mindful for is it masked? Is there actual opportunities where somebody's not phoning in sick, but actually they're not okay? So are we highlighting that as well? And I think one of you mentioned before about upskilling the leaders are the leaders. They've got that connection with their people to really highlight if someone's really not right. They're working, but actually they shouldn't be. So it's finding that balance, isn't it? And it's really getting to know our people and having the absence that is genuine absence reported rather than those that are not, and make sure our people are okay. And that's not being masked also as part of that bigger picture. But one of the next polls that we want to add is all around training hours. So Lise, please can you post the next poll? So what is the average number of hours each advisor spent in training between the measurement period, which is the 1st of January 2023 and the 31st of December 2023? So this will include induction, new product training, refresher training, coaching, or buzz sessions. And that could be via e-learning, it can be face-to-face, it could be classroom-based, it can be virtually. And it doesn't have to be an exact amount, it's just an average. What was the average amount of hours that each of your advisors spent in training during that measurement period? Wonderful. Okay, which is interesting. So 54% have said between 31 and 50 hours were spent in training, which is really interesting to see. I'm going to open that out to our panel. How do you think that hybrid working has impacted how you train your people or what you're seeing? Elizabeth, would you, or David? Elizabeth, if you can go first, yeah.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, of course, due to this hybrid working, part of the sessions they have to be done online now. Okay, so the most important sessions, which are like related to new legislation or already very important process which needs to be followed, we're doing it face to face. So we are asking people to come to the office, or maybe we're arranging it on the team days, and we're just gathering together, doing it face to face. Other training can be done online. For online, it will be easier because you can just gather everyone together on the same call. Via like coming to the office, we have to split, for example, one training into 3 or 4 sessions just to make sure that everyone attends on their team days or wherever they come to the office. So yeah, again, it's finding the right balance. For induction training, definitely it's done only in office. So when we onboard new people, we ask them to come to the office full time for the induction. So the purpose is that they know each other, they build a relationship between each other, they know the people in the office. So we invite the different people like from other departments to do the presentation, so they know personally people from other departments. It kind of builds relationships. And as well, because I'm not sure how, because I see in the report there is like a very huge discrepancy, so maybe I just calculated a bit differently. We're also doing coachings face-to-face, which I did not include into the training hours actually. So for the full reviews, we're doing face-to-face coaching. Also the managers, if something like comes up, on an ad hoc basis. They coach their own advisors, also face-to-face. So we're employing different tactics.
You're trying different tactics as well, which
Yes.
is great. But you have adapted that. David, is that any different for you guys?
Well, let me say first of all that this is possibly one of the areas I'm most proud of in terms of achievement, because we did last year about 78 hours per advisor, and because I'm a big sort of believer in every day is a school day, and every day you should learn something new. So for, let's say, for the current existing team members, if you like, alongside the quarterly events that I mentioned before, we have Wednesday workshop. So every Wednesday of the year, we run, it's short sort of knowledge bursts, if you like, between 30 minutes and an hour on a topic. And we have, I don't know, 3 to 4 sessions each Wednesday. And the calendar covers the full 52 weeks or so. So from that point of view, there's always an opportunity for advisors, and it's voluntary in terms of participation. So advisors can join in, can self-enroll themselves, if you like. And we really saw a big uptake, and we try to run it hybrid. So if we have advisors on site, then we'll do it on site. Otherwise, we do remote and so on, because we try to cater for both being short training sessions, if you like. That works fine. And then in terms of sort of new starters and inductions, very much like Elisaveta. So our approach for the first 4 weeks is mix in terms of 3 days in the office, 2 days at home for during each week. Try to, obviously to create a bit of team spirit, like it was mentioned before, getting to know the people, getting to know the business a little bit. And we try to keep a close knit. But after that, as I said, we'll leave it down to individuals to decide best work pattern, and we try to offer both remote as well as on-site training opportunities for the team.
So it's definitely evolved then since with hybrid working. Chris, what are you seeing from across your customers then, from across the industry? How have you seen how we train and support our people adapt?
I think the hows. I think the Elisaveta and David have kind of, they encapsulate what we see across the rest of the market, and certainly what I see. It's more what I might throw questions back at the team actually. It's, has that changed? Have you, obviously, David, you're proud of the hours they put into the training. Is that been something which you've had to actively, have you had to increase the training levels now you have a distributed workforce because they're in a hybrid, or has it always been something which has been top of mind for your organization?
Personally, I would say something that I've personally driven, because I'm a firm believer in it. Not to say that previously there wasn't training, but having the regularity of training. It's not that you need to go on training every single Wednesday, but giving the opportunity. It's also a very positive feedback we got from the team to say, actually, I know that if I want something, and we try to cover a broad range of topics. So some of them are process related training and top up. Some can be on empathy, on dealing with difficult customers. And I think in 2 or 3 weeks time we launch an introduction to Spanish. Now, not because we deal with Spanish, but we try to make it engaging and fun for the team. And again, investing half an hour or on a year or so to learn about something new, and then maybe one of the people will say, actually, I want to learn Spanish, and then they may pick it up from there. But because we're giving impulse on, let's learn something new today, that really driven a different mindset in the team, and has helped a lot into employee engagement, as well as I said, staff morale.
That's really interesting. It's quite a unique take to introduce something which isn't necessarily super relevant, but might lead to being, to create, let's say, to drop the kind of the guardrails on another training session. I think what we definitely have seen, it's not a surprise that I think our customers are doing more around the training element. And I'm going back to a previous comment, because that on the fly learning and picking up hints and tips from your colleagues and co-workers around you, you lose some of that value. So we're definitely seeing that a huge amount of hours spent on training and things like processes and even tools and systems. Like the technologies are moving so fast now that customers are buying new tools and systems all the time. And I think recent research, I think some contact centers are still using north of 5 applications to handle their communications. So that takes an awful lot of training to ensure that the agents are well versed enough to know how to interact correctly in those processes. So it's no surprise we're seeing huge amounts of hours sort of assigned to the training side of the organisation.
Yeah, it's completely changed, hasn't it? How evolved how we train our people, how we think about training. So how we're using technology, and whether that's bite-sized learning or whether that is coaching, and how we're coaching those individuals as well. I think it has massively evolved over even the last few years. And I think that was already on its way pre-pandemic. I think there was still a lot of evolution for how we train our people, because scheduling people off the phones and that big resource planning task to get everyone scheduled and get them all in a room can take time, they can run over. Whereas actually we've evolved to use more technology so they can stay at the desk and they can do it virtually. So even just that step change made a big step change of how we interact and train our people, and coaching people. They can listen to the call themselves and then give that feedback. So I think training in itself was evolving years ago, but it's great to see that actually that's really enhanced even more so. But the benchmark in itself, and the benchmark did not include induction, but it included new product training, refresher training, poaching, and buzz sessions. So real kind of those key ticket items which are training somebody, whether that's a knowledge brief. So we saw an average this year was 69 hours, which was up from 37.4 hours the year before. So again, we're doubling the amount of investment and we're training our people. So it's, again, that's really interesting to see that. So absence has gone down. We're looking at training's gone up. So we are looking after our people. We say we're looking after our people, and the facts do show that there's massive outputs to that, and there's a massive benefit to that. So it shows we're doing the right thing, which is lovely to hear. Let's go on to talk about one of the other real key ones, as we get asked quite a lot. What's the attrition? What's the right attrition? What are others? How are others? What's the attrition look like? And we've broken that down in our benchmark from overall attrition and internal attrition. But we want to do a quick poll, if we may. But first of all, before we go that, so attrition benchmark overall on par last year was 33%. 33%. So it's it's not really moving. But actually, let's look about that internal attrition. And when we talk about internal attrition, that is that someone's left your department, so left the contact centre, gone into another area of the business. So let's raise the poll. There we go, Sleaze. So what was your average attrition with less than 6 months service or less? Let's go through that one first of all. So this is less than 5%, 6 to 15%, 16 to 23, 24 to 33, 34%. So this is your early stage attrition. Okay. So we're still seeing attrition in the early stages. So we're still seeing that 6 to 15% are still quite high in the first 6 months you actually that you recruit somebody into your operation. But 28% have said less than 5. And in my panel, how does this compare to your first early stages attrition? Let's go to David.
Yeah, like I said, then ours was 14% last year, so in the second range, but it was down from 20% the year before. And again, that's another area where we put effort in terms of hand-holding the first really a few weeks and months of new starters into the team. We came up with, again, I guess from the conference, we came up with a video of actually introducing the business, the team to new starters. We have a very detailed induction plan for the first 5 weeks. And then actually one of the biggest things possibly is showcasing a plan for the first 12 months and really indicating, obviously pending performance and knowledge checks and so on. But the idea to show already, look, if you got to a certain stage, we will look at enriching the job, upskilling maybe onto other channels or doing other activities. And that we receive a lot of positive feedback, because then it means that they know that, again, it's a journey, it's a development journey for new starters to see, right, we're going to start with activities 1 to 3, whatever they are, but we know that the job is not only that. The job will entail 4, 5, 6, and however many, but we will come to time. But there is already thought process behind as to when and how we're going to integrate additional activity and skills into the team. So that possibly was the biggest one, at least based on the feedback we received, that really, if you like, made the trick and made us improve into the early attrition element.
And it's really interesting. And there's something you mentioned there, David, which is helps to really tell that story. So CCMA Benchmark showed that the early stage attrition, those first 6 months, the average was 16%. That was down from 27% the year before. And I mentioned before about internal attrition, because you mentioned it quite elegantly there, David, about that development plan. And so they know what to expect. And I mentioned before that the overall attrition was still around about 33%. But for internal attrition alone, the benchmark showed that it was 35% of attrition was for internal attrition, which was up from 26.9% the year before. So it shows we're losing less people in the early stages, because we're losing about the same amount of people, but we're losing less people in the early stages, and actually more people are developing their careers within the organisation. Is that what you see within your organisation? Is that a similar story, Elisaveta? Or is anything different?
Yes, I would say for early attrition, we really don't have, because we prefer the new starters not to leave the department at least for 6 months after they started, because first they have to pass the induction, which lasts 5 weeks. Sorry. Then until they're fully capable, they will need to work on the floor for at least a couple of months, because there are many nuances they need to know, which cannot be taught during induction. So only by 6 months they're kind of fully capable to perform as an agent. And again, we have as well, the same as David said, we have a development plan. We have several skill sets. So usually they start on one skill set. If they manage well on one skill set, they can attain another skill set, so they basically become multi-skilled, and it's reflected in their salary as well. Also, we have a pathway for promotion to senior agent. So we're trying to keep the people in the department, but as usually is in majority of companies, like the call center is a gateway into the other departments, into the company, and other departments, they continue fetching people from us, like they notice the very good performers, and they they're like taking them after some time. Yes, it's inevitable. So for us, it's like very important, like to keep this induction trainings and going. Induction plans should be kept updated, and like pay close attention to the existing people, to offer them opportunities to learn, to be promoted, to have some development within the department. But yes, definitely it's inevitable that some people will go to other departments when opportunities arise.
It's great for them, great for the development. And actually, we are hearing so much more now that development pathways, career pathways within your own organisation. So people really understand when they're starting their career with you and with your brand, that they know what that opportunity can look like. They've got to put in a bit of hard work. It's not going to be given to them, but actually there is a clear pathway. And whether that's gaining new skills, doing their existing role, or whether that is evolving to different areas of the organisation, which we know is great for them. It's great to grow talent internally, but also when you're backfilling the resource and within the contact centre, that can be a little bit a bit tricky as well, because you feel like you're always on that wheel of recruitment and that backfilling. But it's a great problem to have, isn't it? It's a wonderful problem. Now we are running out of time. I said we could chat all day about these KPIs, but I'm going to pose to each of my panel one last question, if I will. So I'm going to ask you all, what do you think is going to change in 2024? And a final word from you, if I may. And Chris, I'm going to go to you first.
Look, when we discussed this in the briefing beforehand, I think I was on a panel recently, and I had to look at the contact center for 2030, and I'm thinking, Christ, that's miles away. It's really not. It's quite scary how close 2030 is around the corner. So some of the hot topics we're seeing, and this was kind of evident at Enterprise Connect in Florida a few weeks back, is the two key topics that come around contact center mobility, and I think, and automation development. So by mobility, I mean contact center workers are not necessarily anymore just tied to a desk, or there's business units that operate like a contact center that aren't your traditional service center or outbound sales team, that need access to contact center tools, but not necessarily the full bells and whistles of a fully interactive contact center, which you guys might be using. So that in between application is becoming really, really important, and we're seeing that popping up all over the place. So I think you're going to see more development for the likes of 8x8 and some of our competitors, who I'm not going to name their names, where you're going to have more that kind of bit in between a UC user, so dial tone and meetings, and a bit before the fully fledged contact center. That's going to be really, really important. I think you're going to see that over the next 6 months popping up everywhere. And from the automation perspective, I don't necessarily mean just from bots, but I just mean introducing the likes of, look, OpenAI is used by everybody now in various different facets. So within the contact center applications, you're going to see more automated services. So you're going to see people being able to self-score peer reviews for calls. I saw one of the chats earlier saying that someone's average handling time is 60 minutes. That's really hard for them to listen to many calls for quality management. Well, automating that with summarizations and scorings will allow you to kind of get snapshots and benchmarks without listening to the full call. So you could start to assess more interactions without someone physically listening to the actual call itself. I think you're going to see that over the next 12 months, those two are going to be the key topics. And I think we've already started to see the increase in training. You're seeing increase in calls being listened to. You're seeing reductions in staff attritions, more investment in mental health. Those two components making jobs easier and being able to score people more fluidly, and then it allows you to train them more. I think that all goes in the right direction. I think that's my prediction for the next 12 months.
Love it. Thank you, Chris. Elizaveta, quick 30 seconds. What do you see is going to change in 2024?
Yes, we have a huge plans actually. Okay, I will just be very quick. So we're going to upskill more agents so they can handle more interactions. We're also developing, as I said, the quality monitoring, so more interactions will be monitored. One of our priorities is self-service. We have a portal, so we're going to really hard way promote these portals so that people can serve themselves there, reduce the number of calls for us. Also, we're constantly working on systems integration, so to make sure that less systems are used and requests are resolved faster for this case. And also, we're currently doing the benchmarking, so to make sure, because there's inconsistency between handling interactions between agents. Some agents can take 10 minutes for a call, some agents 1 hour. So we just want to make it consistent, so to make sure we handle more interactions.
Lots going on for you guys. Thank you so much. David, one last thought from you. What's changing?
I'll be very brief. Just supporting what Chris was saying, especially on the automation side. I think there is a lot of scope for the quality side, and for the chatbot and for many other things. I think from my personal perspective, the importance of bringing the team along the journey at the end of the day, automation is an enabler to make work more efficient, more easy for them, less stressful, hopefully. So taking these two aspects combined to make further development into our industry.
Amazing. Thank you so much to all of my panel for joining me today. Been great conversation. When I say we're going to run out of time, we really will run out of time, because we can all talk about it all day. It's great to have such an engaged community to share the benchmarking and to take through that journey. But it's great to see so many great initiatives to do the right thing by our customers, our people, and our organisations. Thank you so much to 8x8 for supporting today's launch of the CCMA Benchmark. We couldn't do it without you, and help us to share this information and this detail and this great interaction that we are seeing on the chat today. So thank you all so much, and have a great day, and hope to see you all very, very soon. Take care.